And the guy who won, he was from San Diego.
Okay.
So I gave him props. I gave all the DJs props because they give you a little like, a little prize, and then they hand you the microphone. If you got any words, oh, you gave me the wrong, you gave the microphone to the wrong person this time.
Right.
So, and mind you, I wasn't really much of a talker, but I at least had to speak up for my region. I had to speak up for guys in the Southwest that I know we can get down. And the fact is, I'm away from home, and you're representing your city. And then I just had to tell the host off. I was like, first of all, you ain't shit for that intro. And I was like, I didn't even touch the turntables, you guys, and he's already here talking about my city. And I said, and that's fucked up. And I said, but hey, guess what? I made top 3 or top 2. And I was like, and everybody here did amazing. It's not easy getting on stage. It's such a different feel when you get on stage and rock a party and you got a crowd in front of you. Yeah, you still, you get nervous or jitters. But when you're battling, I think it's even twice as worse because you want to make sure, you're really on a solid table. And if you're doing tricks, you're practicing them enough where you can land them. And back then we didn't have cue points like you have like on the digital interfaces. Back then we had like little stickers we used to place on them where if you put the needle on the sticker, it would by default go to what you wanted to scratch. Those were like our modern day cue points. So you always had to make sure your stickers were on point. The table was sturdy. Just a lot of these things people don't take into play that's what you have to do in order to pull off a clean set. And I just remember hearing those intros at the time. So, hey, if I can take some kind of credit at that time in the battle scene for trailblazing that, I can say that because there was maybe myself and just a few others, Able, Action, and at the time that we're battling at that particular moment where I don't know if they had to hear it like I did, but I mean, to me, it was pretty fucked up. Yeah. But I still went in there with my head up. I didn't look at myself as, oh, I'm not from, these other cities they're mentioning. And at the end, when I got off stage, I'm glad I just shared those words to say, I ain't the only one you should be looking out for. I was like, there's a lot of us coming. And if you guys ever come to Arizona, come check us out, And yeah, I'm glad to say it's flourishing. And there's so many great DJs now, even from Arizona. So entering competitions. That's the only way you can know if you're going to get good or not. Okay. And then again, like I said, when I was coming up, when I got into DJing, this is the truth. I never really got into it to rock parties. I got into it because I was gravitated towards cassette tapes as well as VHS. And out here in the Southwest, we had a few hip hop shops, if you would, record stores / it's the place you can go and get tips for spray paint cans, and they sell like Pumas and Pro Keds and stuff to break in. So for all the B-boys and B-girls. Mm-hmm. And then, it was just a real small store. It was a couple of them. There was one called The Arena, which was in Phoenix. You had Style Rock, which was in Tempe on Curry Road. And when you would go, you would see mixtapes from everywhere. So they were from coast to coast. So you may get a mixtape from somebody from New York. And then right there in the mix, you have DJs on the West Coast that, came out here on the regular, maybe for gigs. And I probably wasn't even old enough to go to those clubs. And you had the Beat Junkies, the Scratch Pickles, just off the top of my head, DJ Rectangle, and a long list of others. But when you heard their mixtapes, it just it blew your mind. And as well as the local DJs that we had that were just as good. You got Z-Trip, DJ Fashion.
Fashion, I remember.
Yeah, Fashion was another one. He was on the radio. Yeah, and his mixtapes, I remember telling him, this was a while back, we were listening to him in high school, and he was doing doubles. He was cutting it up, and he was playing his own style of music. Right. And it wasn't necessarily just based on either coast. Like he played a little bit of everything, and he was, really good, as well as Z-Trip and Radar. They were putting out mixes as well. And you hear the scratching. And again, going back to the VHSs, you've seen the DMC videos. ITF was very big back then, which was Alex Aquino, who was like, I believe, the manager for the Scratch Pickles back in the day. And they did the International Turntablist Federation. And that was around, I want to say I could be wrong again on the timeline, but I remember them as far as 1996. Okay. And it was in conjunction with the Rocksteady anniversary. And they had this historical battle, which was the X-Men, who are now called the Executioners, versus the Invisible Scratch Pickles. And it was like an exhibition battle. But again, of course, everybody's going to make it an East Coast, West Coast thing, but it was just something to see, because if you're a fan of the art or just battle DJs and just them elevating the craft. At that time, I couldn't fathom what any of those guys were doing, whether it was the beat, the executioners, beat juggling, Sinister, Rob Swift, Rock Raider, and then them going against Mixmaster Mike and Qbert and DJ Shortcut. Everything that they were doing, I was just mesmerized. Again, around when I started, 1996. So I was like, man, I want to do that. And so again, you kind of have a visual now of how these guys are manipulating the records. But not only that, a lot of the companies at the time that a lot of battle DJs revered to, which was like Techniques, of course, and Vestex. Vestex was very pivotal with their 2-channel mixers and Shortcut. And I believe Redmatic from the Beat Junkies, they had their opinions on this mixer being built, which was the 05 Pro.
Okay.
And so they would put out these VHS videos on the basics of scratching, baby scratch, transforming, forward scratching, or some know them as stabs, and also the basics of mixing and so on and so forth. I think it was called Turntable Wizardry, and I remember getting those VHSs. So mind you,
have one of those, man.
You're right. I think I have 1 or 2 of them still. I still kept all my VHSs too. Like I won't let nobody borrow them, because if you let the homies borrow them, you never got them back. It's like, oh yeah, let me get this one. And I learned my lesson a long time ago, so I would just say, nah, I don't know where it's at. But to this day, I still have all my VHSs.
Wow.
And so all those battle videos, the DMCs, the ITFs, and whatever else was out at that time,
you were watching them.
I was watching them, and then just rewinding them, and then you're just trying to emulate that. And probably wasn't until later on, somewhere down the road, where you start meeting them, the champions and whoever was winning at the time.
Shout out real quick to the executioners, rest in peace, Raider.
That's the homie right there.
Shout out to Trill, because that's a shop in Phoenix rooted in hip hop culture as well. I recently went to go see The Odd Couple. Rob Swift and Sinister came down there, and I introduced myself to Sinister. If you see this, I came up to you. I gave you love because you impacted me as a kid, wanting to be sweet, wanting to get into turntablism.
He's like my favorite beat juggler.
Dude,
like ever
I love
of
his
all
juggles, man. Love Sinister, man. And I'm so glad you're here.
One of the illest, because I would tell him he's one of the first DJs I've ever seen, in my opinion, break a beat down like 4 or 5 times, and every single time it was just as funky as the first breakdown,